Each game matters throughout the season, but definitely towards the end, it gets a little more high pressure because the teams in the bottom of the standings want to get those last few wins to try to make it into playoffs.
We can be much better than what we've shown this split. All that's going to matter is these next couple games and the fact that we can make the playoffs.
CLG turning heads with the win over Cloud9.
Right now, I just want to finish off the split in a way that would make me happy. I really want to be able to make it to Vancouver.
Now or never.
The goal is just making playoffs at this point. Really, every win matters. So we're just going to be trying our hardest to make it in.
Even though we go to playoff, we must win those teams to go MSI.
Now or never.
I think we really just need to focus on getting those wins, especially on the lower tier teams, so that we can boost ourselves out of relegations.
Now or never.
At the end of the day, we just want playoffs, and just winning LCS is the goal.
Now or never.
Welcome everyone to the North American League Championship Series. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Los Angeles, California, ready to go to cast some League of Legends action. It's going to be amazing here in the studio, of course. We've got excited fans in the studio ready to watch the games. Of course, we are here ready to rock as well. Lots of people outside, including a Tibbers. Wonderful. Well done. Congratulations on that one. TSM have been looking strong in first place, walking ready to keep that one going. Acadian, listen to some sick tunes. Hoping to drop some bodies and hit the floor, who knows. Phoenix1 coming into this one as well, looking pretty good. Have a chance of taking over second place by the end of it all. Immortals also surging strong, several good showings. You can see they're setting up for their first match of the day as well. It's going to be a fun one. Hello everyone, I am David Freak Shirley, hosting the analyst desk for the wonderful, the amazing, the outstanding Mark Z and also Zyrene.
I'm kind of disappointed. We had the Saturday special with Scara and James, and then this is like the discount thrift store, like grab who you can find with you two. It's
wow.
I don't know. It's just not the same.
All right, let's just have a conversation.
All right, you and me, Zyrene. Mark, it's going to be a
part
for
of
this. Let's start out with the day with a peek at how the teams are looking up in the standings. At the top of the table is me and Zyrene, aka TSM, here at the very beginning here. Cloud9 also right now sitting in second place. Of course, Phoenix1 can challenge that, but there is a very tight race below that for playoff spots. FlyQuest has dropped down to 6th, and there's a lot of teams are very close to them as well. Of course, Dignitas already claiming 5th right now with their early surges. Now, looking on to what's on tap today, we can see that TSM will face Echo Fox at the very beginning in the battle arena. Following them will be Counter Logic Gaming taking on FlyQuest, two playoff teams right there. Meanwhile, NALCS2 will also host a couple of matches with Phoenix1 taking on Immortals. Both these teams have been looking very good later on in the split, and then Ninja plus the rest of Team Envy will take on a maybe slumping Cloud9, of course, piloted by Jensen in the mid lane. Now, the big surprise coming out of yesterday is the fact that the once dominant Cloud9 has started dropping some matches, back-to-back losses to Counter Logic Gaming and Immortals, two teams below them in the standings right now, and that means that Phoenix1 can overtake in the standings.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because just a couple weeks ago we were talking about Cloud9, how they were basically guaranteed to get that other playoff round bye. It was basically between them and TSM to see who's going to finish first. And now you're looking at it and you think that they might not even actually get that bye and will be having to play in the first round of playoffs.
Yeah, Cloud9 looks so dominant, but now Phoenix1 are coming up as those big contenders. Arrow looks on point every single damn game. Ryu also has been stepping it up and finding some great consistency, and it doesn't seem to matter whether they're using Meteos or Nori in the jungle and also bringing on Stunt. The core of that team has really stepped up, including the top lane Zig.
And for Cloud9, we always talked about how, well, they're losing with Ray, they're subbing him out a lot, Impact out a lot. Well, yesterday they lost with Impact in against Immortals, so it's getting a little scary.
Yeah, and just going back to Phoenix1 for one final point here, we talk about how it's possible that they take over that Cloud9 spot and get that first round bye. They play Cloud9 next Saturday, and that's a big match to take that over because they're just one match behind. But the problem here is Phoenix1's schedule is really tough. They have to play Cloud9, TSM, and Immortals. So they don't have to just play like the second best team. They have to play like they're the best team in the league to get that bye.
We'll see if Phoenix1 can do it. Of course, P1 would own the head-to-head over C9 if they do win that second matchup at the end of the week. We'll see if that happens overall. Of course, there's a lot more going on. There's a lot still up for grabs, of course. There's several teams close to playoffs, but we're down to 2 to 3 matches left. And there's more teams than spots, obviously.
Right, it's basically 3 spots, 4 teams. And Dignitas and Immortals are starting to do a lot better recently. And CLG, they've kind of been hanging around the middle for a while now. And FlyQuest is on like a fast downward trajectory. So it's not looking great for them.
Yeah, FlyQuest is kind of having the inverse of their first half. But also there was a little glimmer of hope there against TSM yesterday. But I feel like their top lane got exposed. Balls looked rather weak, and they were punishing him over and over again, and that's how they found those advantages. Hanszer getting himself a player of the game and really just carrying from that top lane. And so FlyQuest, there's a lot of questions here about, is this team still a playoff team? And I feel like from strength of schedule, they still are.
All right, we got to talk about this. Of course, you can see the logos behind us. Immortals, FlyQuest, CLG, and Team Dignitas, the 4 teams that are likely to grab the bottom 3 playoff spots. P1 on upwards pretty much secured. So the question is, who's your odd man out? Zyrene, starting with you.
Oh, with me? Okay.
Yeah.
So I went through a whole bunch of probability and strength of schedule remaining. I feel like CLG makes it in because they have an Envy game and they have a few others there that are relatively easy, but it would put them at 9 wins, which seems to be enough with that huge clutter. Then there's FlyQuest, who I think is actually the 7th best team in the league, but they'll still make playoffs because they have TL and Echo Fox remaining in their schedule. So they have 2 wins that they could pick up rather easily. So it'll be kind of like the Apex Envy situation where Apex seemed like the better team over Envy last split, but Apex didn't go to the playoffs. So I feel like FlyQuest will make it, but then it's Dignitas versus Immortals. That matchup next Sunday is the really big matchup here because whoever wins that is the one that goes to the playoffs in my mind, and I feel like that's Immortals right now, having almost taken down TSM, only a Baron throw away, and then also taking down Cloud9.
I'll go against the probabilities a little bit and say FlyQuest will be the team that won't make it. And
really?
I do agree, like, strength of schedule probably puts them in it, but if you look at who they've beaten, they've only beaten Envy basically in the second half of the season. And sure, they had that close game versus TSM, but we've seen Envy have close series versus TSM. A lot of people have had close series versus TSM. I don't actually think that means a ton just based off eyeball tests or anything like that, because we've seen almost every team look competitive against TSM.
Yeah.
And I do think probably FlyQuest still makes it just because of the strength of schedule, but they have not at all looked like the 7th place team, maybe not even the 8th best team. How far do they go?
I still, like you said, I feel like they're the 7th best team, but I don't see them losing to both Echo Fox and TL. So that seems like a big kind of
I'm playing against it. This is the big payoff bet.
All right, man. Well, mine's Dig, and I guess yours is
FlyQuest.
FlyQuest,
Yeah, I guess I'll throw my hat in the ring as I think Immortals, they're still sitting in 7th. They need to catch up on wins, and the chance that they drop an upset loss means maybe they stay outside of the playoffs because they have to win more than the other teams do, and that's my vote for which team is going to miss out in these spots. The other 3 going to make it in. Now, once again, we are looking for how you show your team support, but I want to be very clear on something. It's hashtag HowILCS. I know it looks a lot like Howl LCS, and that means we've gotten a lot of dog pics, which is fine. Dogs are amazing, the best conventional household pet. We welcome it, but just make sure it's actually hashtag HowILCS. If you haven't already made your tweets, make sure you send them to the LCS, hashtag HowILCS, of course, and we'll get some of those tweets on throughout the day. But guys, no cats. Unacceptable. Cat pics not okay on the internet. I'm calling a stop to that right now.
That does
You're
not
wrong.
represent
Let's
everyone
send
on
on
the
to our
internet.
casters. Forget these guys. Get our games underway.
Send your cats.
Don't send cats.
Thank you, Freak. Hello, I'm Julian Pesci Timecart, and my ride or die caster for this match is Joshua Jat Leesman. Jat, I know you love cats.
Do you have a cat?
I do, back home.
There we go.
Far
Both
away
have
now.
cats.
There we
Eat
go.
it, Freak.
Cats are great, Freak. Well, we're getting ready for our first series as TSM take the stage against Echo Fox. And once again, TSM took their match yesterday to Game 3. And while that does make their matches exciting to watch, the last thing the team wants is their record in Game 3s to break during playoff.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at TSM, it's not just about the risk of dropping a match in the regular split. This team has aspirations internationally, and they can't keep having these kind of slow starts. I mean, you look at that record with Game 1s, 2s, and 3s. Gets progressively better throughout the series because when they're really on all cylinders in a Game 3, they have threats in all lanes. We've seen Hanszer have some great games. Bjergsen has been equally as threatening. And TSM wants to see that type of solo lane strength come in Game 1 instead of Game 3.
Well, we'll see if they can prove that sort of dominance in their match against Echo Fox, whose playoff hopes are slipping away with every single loss.
Yeah, mid-season it was looking like they're there, and in that Analyst X segment, they weren't even in the conversation. And even if Echo Fox can gather some wins, it's because they still have to deal with the fact that all those other teams are improving rapidly in the last couple of weeks. And while those teams seem to be adapting to the meta, I'm a little confused with Echo Fox, specifically Keith on Ashe. 8 games in a row, 10 of his last 11. And for a player who has positional errors often, I want to see him on a champion that can get out of those situations. You want to see the whole team improve, obviously, but I also want to see them put the players on champions where they have a higher chance of success.
Certainly does matter there as you move into it, especially in the back of the season. But let's check out the starting lineups. On the blue side, it's TSM. We're going to finish first, as almost always. Hanszer, Svenskeren, Bjergsen, Wild Turtle, Biofrost, and Coach Barb.
Yeah, TSM looking to improve on their first place record. On the red side, it is Echo Fox. We got Looper in the top lane, Acadian in the jungle, Froggen in mid lane, Keith in bot with Gate, and Coach Tim Kira.
And again, Echo Fox, it's not even just slim playoff chances they're now looking at. It's also getting out of potentially getting relegated, because the bottom of the standings is starting to get a little close for them as well. Yes, they've got some leeway, but an upset victory here over TSM not only hurts TSM season, which is kind of fun if you're the underdog team, but will certainly help them get out towards playoffs, but also out of relegation.
Yeah, and one thing you just always have to remember about competition in the LCS is just one team's success always comes to the detriment of the other. So it's such a difficult situation for Echo Fox to be in right now, where they haven't been performing very well lately, and they're up against a team who just seems to continue to grind out victories. The one solace they could take here is the fact that TSM does often go to Game 3, leaving the door open for maybe an upset.
Well, we'll see what happens here in Game 1 as we are into Champion Select for the first. Malzahar banned by TSM, Graves banned away from Echo Fox, and we'll see what the teams are looking like for first game form here. Nothing too surprising just yet, and there's a Shen ban for TSM. So it has been fun to watch 7.5 unfold, but still a whole nother week to play on it, and of course the rest of this weekend's games as well.
Yeah, exactly. Even coming off just some of the early patterns, Graves, Shen, and Malzahar have been some of the most banned champions on this patch. Vladimir is something who very few people had success with, except for Bjergsen, who played it to decent success in Game 2 and much success in Game 3 of their last season.
I like that ban a lot from Echo Fox, just kind of taking away the recent comfort there from Bjergsen. TSM, though, lining up their final ban. We'll see what they want to take away. Lulu's been a hot pick, of course, but lots of different champions to consider here. And TSM are taking their time with this final ban, making sure they have it all prepared as Caitlyn actually gets taken away.
That is interesting. A lot of us were talking backstage beforehand when I was bringing up the fact that Keith has played Ashe 8 games in a row, and we're thinking, well, what else would they be able to put him on? And we're just like, well, he could play Caitlyn. He'd be able to shove in, and that has some mobility. Well, not anymore.
Yep, Caitlyn banned away, Lulu also taken, so a lot of that safety that could have been there for Keith in the bottom lane is now gone, but this is an interesting trade from Echo Fox. I like it, Ezreal and Rumble, so Keith is going to change it up from Ashe, and Rumble's one of those other top tier champions.
All right, we got the highly mobile Ezreal there, and maybe the Ashe will get locked in by TSM on the other side, just to talk to the Rumble a little bit. That is one of the top lane power picks we've seen a fair share of bans on, as well as early picks. It's been very strong lately, especially with some of the super tank nerfs, allowing Rumble to find a little bit more success.
Well, see what happens for TSM's next two picks here. I mean, Ashe also a very legitimate pick for total, so he'll take that there for a bit more of an unconventional duo lane, but we've seen a lot of Lulu, usually paired with Ezreal. Ashe makes a lot of sense there as well. And actually Rengar for Svenskeren, a jungler that has been touched here in this patch, but junglers are still going back to. Now Arcadian's going to pick up Lee Sin for himself.
Yeah, the Rengar has definitely had some huge games. Rengar and Lulu is actually quite a good synergy. Dive in, get the knock-up extra, or just speed him up as he's jumping in to find the initiation. Something Svenskeren's been pretty comfortable on this split as well.
Certainly good to see both junglers on early game powerhouses, but what do Echo Fox want to take away for this next phase of bans here? Nothing super obviously jumping out. I feel like teams kind of took 6 power picks in the first phase, but there's talent actually, so first mid lane focus for Echo Fox.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you right there. The one little bits you can kind of throw in here is Echo Fox have a lot of skill-reliant champions, not that much utility right now. It's damage and skill shots for the most part, whereas TSM have built in a fair bit more utility with the 3 roles they have picked, which to me means Echo Fox has a little bit less flexibility with what they can do in the solo lanes, but as you mentioned, mostly just power picks.
And you can see TSM smartly banning away the Karma, so just picking on the supports that Gate won't be able to get. Lulu is so strong that taking away the other strong supports makes sense, but Gate's got a pretty deep champion pool. I've liked his Tahm Kench a lot. I don't necessarily like it with Ezreal, but Gate certainly should have options coming out of this, and Echo Fox is going to keep it simple, banning Syndra as well.
Yeah, trying to engineer a good matchup for Froggen. They also have the potential to last pick a mid laner if you're looking at Echo Fox. They also have played Victor in the mid lane the last 4 games, and even though it hasn't had much success as they've lost all 4 of those games, his Victor has been strong in laning phase. I don't necessarily want to put the blame on Froggen for that one.
Well, Jace is an interesting ban there for TSM, but we'll see what Echo Fox want here. And Orianna jumps to mind as maybe the best mid laner left, but Victor is pretty good against that, and Froggen has played a lot of it. So if they're comfortable giving away a counter pick, maybe do that and leave the Victor for yourself, or just take Orianna now to deny it. I mean, Echo Fox have a number of options here. I think they're all relatively good.
Yeah, I think for now they should be doing the support because there's already support locked down on the other side. They're picking into a known matchup, and it has been something that Keith has been good on. And then Would be no surprise if TSM quickly locked in the Orianna, as it's a blind pick mid. This synergizes well. Double shields on top of the Lulu.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Lulu, Caitlyn, Orianna. This isn't quite that, but Ashe is very serviceable, certainly, as more of a late game carry. And Orianna, again, has just been such a good-looking mid laner that I can't imagine Bjergsen doesn't want it here. I think the real question is, what does Haunter take here? Seen a lot of fighters in the top lane. Renekton is still available if he wants to take it, and it does pair well with the likes of Lulu, but maybe he wants a harder tank. Nautilus has been kind of the other big pick.
Yeah, I mean, if they go with Nautilus, that is about as standard as the team compositions come. Tank top, supportive mid, I mean, not much more you can get there. Will be going for big-time team fights, and it also brings them a huge amount of lockdown if that's what they're going for. But Froggen now knows he's going up against Orianna. What does he do?
Well, curious to see what the pick is here. I do like the time count, by the way, from Gate. Kind of glossed over that, but has been a successful pick for him and is decent into the likes of Ashe, likes of Nautilus Ult. But there we go. It's Ahri for Froggen. We kind of expected this for him. It could have been a blind pick, but I think getting a bit more information was good, and Froggen should be happy with this matchup.
Yeah, it's been a mid lane pick that's rising in popularity, and unfortunately, I do feel like this kind of puts Echo Fox in another one of those situations where they're all going to be waiting around for Froggen to try and make a play, because you look at the setup on that team, and aside from Acadian being able to fly into a CC-filled team and kick someone back, which is actually really unlikely and highly dangerous, they're waiting for Froggen to land a charm before doing anything, which does kind of put the ball in TSM's court as far as playmaking is concerned, when 4 of those 5 members on TSM have good initiation skill.
Yep. I mean, we've always looked at Arcadian and Froggen to get things going for Echo Fox this season. One thing I will say is that if they can start winning their lanes, and that's been pretty standard of Echo Fox in a lot of their games, we've seen Gates Tom Kench do the other thing that Tom Kench does well, and globally move his team around the map so they can kind of smother you. So there's that option there as well. Generally, Echo Fox, when they get ahead, they tend to stay ahead, and I think this comp's pretty good at doing that. The only issue is if it doesn't do that, they don't have very many options left.
Yeah, just running it down one more time. Finally, Keith is on a non-Ashe champion. He picked the Ezreal before the Ashe, so it's not like TSM took it away from them. But I do keep talking about the Orianna plus Lulu synergies.
It's really good.
So good for team fights, not even just on ADs, but also on tanks. The double shielding, I feel like, is almost what you want to do right now in this game.
Well, TSM definitely played it standard, but it does look pretty good. We'll see what happens as the teams are going to move out onto Sona's Rift. For the first bout between TSM and Echo Fox, TSM looking to hold firmly onto their first position. Echo Fox, an upset win here helps them a lot with only 1 week left.
Yeah, it is pretty much a must-win if they still want to consider anywhere close to playoffs. They're sitting at 5 wins. The team currently in 6th place already has 8 wins?
7
7 wins. Likely to have 8 beforehand, so 2 full matches back. Echo Fox needs to perform now if they want playoffs.
Well, it's a decent start. Everyone's going to hang out in a brush and hope Biofrost face checks. But I don't think Biofrost is going to find himself too far forward. We'll see if Echo Fox do go for an invade, though. Going to get some vision down. I've seen a lot of aggressive invades for Raptor Camp wards. Tag there from Arcadian, but doesn't follow it.
Yeah, once the Tongue Lash missed, the kill wasn't going to have much chance. Svenskeren did get the ward into the Raptor buff, as did Echo Fox, so not really a clear winner from that level 1.
Looks like Haunter might be sticking around toward the red buff. Seen a lot of this from top laners as well. So Lupa already with the ward's going to spot this. This could be trouble for Haunter. Lupa going to start it off. Flame Spitter's there. He does get the ward down, but Haunter might have to burn a summoner. Froggen is coming around as well. Haunter forced to burn the flash.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a pretty greedy invade by Haunter trying to move into that position that early. He didn't realize that the Tribrush he walked through was already warded out. I actually could have seen a world in which Echo Fox plays that more aggressively and gets the kill. Haunter had already skilled up his W during that invade as well, so very few ways out. Almost lucky to get out with his life after that invade, even though he did burn his flash.
See if Arcadian maybe even looks there for some early pressure, because Haunter is quite vulnerable at this point. Ooh, very smart. Tagging that red buff over, going to try and fly through this camp. Haunter did get the wall down, so he should have some vision here. I don't think he's going to be surprised if Arcadian decides to come top early, but still definitely sucked for a top laner that's been looking awfully good in the back end of the season.
Yeah, Nautilus often gets pushed in by Rumble. Without Flash, it becomes more of a certainty. The main fear for Haunter would be that once Looper is level 4, when you're starting to really get powerful with Rumble with 2 ranks in Flamespitter as well as the rest of your abilities, that's when Haunter's going to have to worry about the lane bouncing back and pushing against him, because that would then put Looper in a situation where he can maybe freeze Haunter out. For now, though, Looper's going to be able to pick up all that CS at turret, and it's really not going to have much of an effect.
Yep, just going to chill out for now. Hawkshot going to move around and spot Arcadian, so a bit of scouting there from Wild Turtle, and TSM's duo lane has been pushing heavily in this bottom side, which we do expect. I mean, Ezreal, not a bad laner, but generally pretty safe, splits a lot of lanes. Tom Kench on the other side. Getting through lanes is usually a good sign. If you can get an advantage in lane, you're doing really well.
Yeah, Tom Kench is really interesting too, because even though he's that super defensive laner and a melee who needs to play defensive, randomly, he'll become a kill lane. If you're able to land Tongue Lash kind of through minion waves, you have incredible all-in potential, which is one of the things that allows him to survive in these range-focused metas.
Well, Bjergsen hugging the correct side, given Turtle's information, but Hunker too deep here onto Frog and Arcadian though. Looks like he'll back away. Bjergsen just posturing a little too defensively for his liking. And Froggen just going to try and get the CS there instead, although it's even so far as Arcadian can attack the Gromp and keep jungling. This is one of the nice things about Lee Sin players is they're very efficient, not wasting too much time looking for ganks, but they can immediately go back to farming as soon as they know, okay, it's probably not going to work.
Yeah, the range to jump to jungle camps with Resonating Strike definitely enhances their ability to sneak back to jungling. Do kind of have to speak to the deep warding of TSM this early in the game is enabling a lot of those laning phases. Well, I don't believe Acadian was directly on a ward while Bjergsen was pushed up in lane. Bjergsen was still working on the intel from the red buff ward that Hanser kind of sacrificed his flash for earlier on in the game, and that's why he was playing so far to the left side of mid lane. Then when Acadian went over to Gromp, he actually walked over a ward from Biofrost that had already been placed. So a lot of intel going on the side of TSM, but no advantages to show for it.
Yeah, we'll see if Sven maybe gets a bit more aggressive. He's just been farming through his jungle, actually already gone back for a bit of extra early itemization. Arcadian hanging out, might be spotted by Sven here, but Froggen is not in this lane. Arcadian's being pretty patient, looks like he'll hit the recall button and back away. This was a big product of TSM's summer last year, is that they would push off all their lanes and then Sven would invade. We've seen a lot less invading from Sven, at least this season, but he's had kind of a dip in performance, just in general. Not a huge one, but it's not the same aggressive player we know and love.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sven has definitely been slumping when compared to his performance in the summer of last split. Even yesterday, the game that went awry against FlyQuest started with Sven Skaren getting first blooded during a jungle invade, so there's definitely teams smartening up to what was a somewhat straightforward invading strategy last year, and people have been able to punish it this game though, mostly just hard farming, and it ends up working out early on. Hawkshot! Hello.
Just great information again. I'm not sure they quite got Arcadian, but he's now walked through a ward, so TSM are doing a really good job using every single part of their team to try and spot this jungler out. Arcadian loves to get aggressive and in people's faces, but he's now looking in onto Sven and doesn't really have a line here to try and get aggressive. Lands the Q there, that could be enough. Can a ward hop on, try and chase down Sven Skaren. The slow's already been applied. Sven has to get himself up, but Arcadian looking for the solo kill. Flashes back to his minion wave though, and he'll be safe.
Really smart by Acadian there. Being down a level, a lot of junglers would have backed away, but he recognized Sven Skaren had no ferocity at the very start of that. If the Q hits, he's able to go in as well. Understands the early game damage that Lee Sin can put out, and a worthwhile flash burn there by Acadian.
Acadian now going to try this. Froggen actually hit 6 already. Bjergsen shouldn't be far off. There's that cannon creep going to give it over to him. So this is dangerous for Froggen. He has to be careful. Uses the ulti, but misses the charm. Acadian now going to come back in. Froggen takes some damage, but Bjergsen pretty effortlessly avoids that game.
Yeah, really patient too. He doesn't return any damage, which you may want to fault him for, as he just kind of walked back with the Orianna ball. He was kind of saving his burst in case Acadian would come in. Now Froggen has no ult.
Shockwave forcing the flash there from Froggen, but Sven going to keep leaping. Bowler's going to lock him down. TP in from EchoFox, but first blood is going to go to Sven Skaren. Arcadian going to answer back. Straight on Biofrost. Might have saved with a shield. Exhausted down as well. And there's a double kill for Sven. Now going to leap back on the Looper, who does get the counter kill, but TSM collapse first and collect the trade.
Yeah, and being pushed in on the bottom side allows Biofrost to be first to that roam. And that's pre-6 Lulu shielding as well, just enough to keep him alive. It forces so much from EchoFox on the tail end, but Froggen having burned his ultimate already. Good reactive flash by Froggen, but after that he has no ult charges left, so they can continue to root him, and Acadian is just a hair short on that safeguard. Flashing into the brush, which also flashes you into an exhaust, gets you there, but then there were no shields left for Sven Skaren, and it ends up being a 1-4-2.
Well, nice stuff there, but TSM collect the first blood, deny it away from Arcadian, and kind of get things started. Two kills actually both went over to Sven, so We were worried that maybe he wasn't being as aggressive. Now got an early gold lead against Acadian.
Yeah, checking that gold lead, 900 gold in the favor of Rengar. That is a completed Caulfield's Warhammer to just the longsword, which will make a decent difference if they do decide to duel again. Not to mention, boosts Svenskeren to level 6, and there are multiple lanes now without flash, as Looper did have to burn flash to secure that kill.
Yeah, again, it was pretty quiet for the early stages of the landing phase, but I imagine that's going to start to pick up now. TSM up about 1,200 gold from the early play, but we'll see what Echo Fox do to try and answer. But this is kind of more of the style we're used to seeing from them. They know they have an advantage, they have their lanes pushing, immediately move in to try and take a buff away.
Yeah, the Hawkshot comes through as well. Gives them large amounts of scouting onto Lee Sin. And it actually makes Echo Fox's duo lane have to be fearful because Orianna and Rengar have been missing for so long.
I mean, Keith and Gate in general have been pushed in all laning phase long. You can see Turtle, he's only got a 10 CS lead, but this is going to be a dive started up. Echo Fox should be able to spot Bjerg, but I think Sven got away. Doesn't matter though, the duo lane's backed up, but that's going to be first turret gold over to Turtle and Bifrost. They did most of that damage on their own, so
yeah.
Bottom lane's not going well.
Yeah, and a lot of this does have to do with the map play. Wild Turtle hawkshotted Acadian at Acadian's red buff when all of that was happening. So Echo Fox knew that they had no backup, and TSM knew that Echo Fox had no backup. So even with Svenskeren and Bjergsen just being missing, they were kind of forced to let TSM hit that turret. And that just adds to the advantage that TSM can accrue.
Yep, here comes a dive now for Echo Fox, trying to make a play on the top side of the map. Horn's pretty tanky. See how this one starts off. Acadian kind of needs to land a Q, but Froggen's already bailed on the play. Tom Kench came up as well, but Gate isn't even 6 because TSM's jungle and mid laner are roaming to this left-hand side. Second
play here, though.
Second blue over to Bjergsen, and now Froggen's going to get denied. That's a huge loss in mid lane.
Yeah, and just a little bit of a lack of coordination right there, as Gate and Froggen were hoping to get a pick, but Gate walks forward well ahead of Froggen, kind of blows the cover of the play by whiffing a tongue lash, and just makes all that rotation actually have no damage on the entire TSM team. They're left with a smattering of control wards, but not much else.
Well, Gate's going to clear this one out, so a bit of vision now going to drop for TSM. Svenskeren, though, back towards the mid lane, does have his ultimate ready, so Bjergsen with the shockwave can just try and make something happen here. Bifrost going to clear out this ward. Looks like TSM are trying to get vision around the Drake area. Maybe just look for an invade. I mean, they've already opened up the bottom side of the map with Turtle and Bifrost taking down the turret, so it's a pretty easy invade. Acadian, though, going to get the Gromp. Tongue Lash going to miss, and TSM don't need to overcommit here. Good chump from Froggen. Bjergsen taking damage, but Orianna feeling pretty healthy right now.
Yeah, Bjergsen always a player who keeps a lot of health potions early on in laning phase. So he's able to make map plays if he ends up taking heavy harass. You can see the ward coverage already on TSM after the turret. He's kind of easily taking this Cloud Drake. This is turning into a pretty solid early game for TSM.
Ooh, good hook from Haunter. Loop is overheated, so he's just going to win the trade very nicely for himself. Spectre's Carl going to start helping out Haunter in his 1v1, although Looper should have his first major item finished shortly as well. Cloud Drake over to TSM as well. That's kind of what all of that vision and invasion was set up for. Sure, they don't get a kill and some extra gold, but they pretty cleanly take an objective.
Yeah, and I feel like this is actually quite interesting, seeing TSM's Drake percentage of 59.7% being the first in the NALCS at just 60%. Adds on to our story of the fact that TSM actually isn't an incredibly dominant team. Their game record is actually second or third if you're just looking at game ones in the NALCS, as well as their overall win percentage not being very high, but they have been able to pull things out at the end of the series. I just thought that was interesting to point out. Doesn't have much of an impact on this game.
Certainly not right now. TSM looking good, but something they themselves are very aware of. They want to be a dominant team. They want to finish first and finish the season strong, moving themselves into the best spot in the postseason. And, you know, you do need to cleanly win versus a team like Echo Fox. You're the #1 team. You should be expected to show it. 2,000 gold up's nice, and the play does seem pretty crisp so far, though. Arcadian trying to set a trap here. I think he's the one trapped.
Yeah, he's potentially going to have to burn all the flash here.
Step touch in as well. Haunter flash hook. Bjergsen cleans in to collect it. Easy kill for TSM.
Yeah, Acadian doesn't quite flash away. Couldn't clear enough distance to get over the wall before the Nautilus ultimate knocked him up. If he had, Haunter wouldn't have been able to flash over the wall and get the dredge line, but just TSM with a crisp collapse.
Yep, really nice stuff there. Good confirm from Haunter. Immediately flashing as soon as he saw the ult to go off. And Bjergsen now with that Morello Nomicon finished. Feeling pretty happy here in mid lane. In fact, Froggen can't afford to eat too much more damage. Gate continuing to roam here. Now going to try and make a play on the bottom side. Whistle voyage over. Froggen's already here. Arrow hits on the Froggen though. And now Bifrost is going to kite back and protect him. Turtle's fine there by the looks of things. This has to keep kiting Gate. Wildgoat gets burnt for the knock-up. And the rest of TSM's now here to reinforce. Exhaust does go down, but Gate's now caught in the thick of it. He should be going down. He does eat Wild Turtle, but not enough to kill him. Haunter comes down just to make sure. And TSM, their 4th kill of the game.
Turtle dodged both Qs from Froggen's Ahri as well as the ultimate from Keith. You can argue whether dodged and missed are synonymous in this situation, but they did not land on him because what was a good play didn't work out because of the execution of TSM as well as Fox right there. And it turns a kill around when Echo Fox used so many of the resources to try and get it.
Yeah, Lupa holding onto his TP, but actually roams mid lane just to lay the ultimate down. Try and deter Bjergsen from pushing any further. But I mean, Haunter's now getting bot wave pressure, and kind of watch how this collapse happen again. Turtle's so far forward here as well.
He does land the arrow onto Froggen, which allows him to clear distance. Then watch dash, misses the Q. Also then sidesteps the ultimate. Froggen, while he does land the charm, was waiting on his Q cooldown, and that one misses as Wild Turtle flashed away. And while all that is happening, the rest of TSM is slowly collapsing down and whittling away at Gate's health. So I feel like that was a pretty good play by Wild Turtle to get himself out of that situation. Here comes a dive.
Set up for the dive. Shockwave lands. It's 2. Gate eats him. And that might get them both killed. Gate already dead to Haunter. And now Froggen tied up and Whimsy's down to the turret. Spence Garen gets the next one. And TSM with a clean dive.
Yeah, this is looking more like Game 3 TSM from yesterday. And Picture, you and I were talking. TSM only has 3 2-0 victories on the year compared to 10 2-1 victories. So they've been that team that kind of grinds out series, but they themselves, if they want to build confidence going towards playoffs, would like to have a quick
Turtle gonna get kicked. Firefrost Muncher can protect him. Lupa with the damage, but the Polymorph might help. No, not nearly enough. And Acadian gets both kills actually, slaying TSM's duo lane.
Yeah, Turtle had no ways of getting out of that one. Interesting how he actually did scout with the volley because he thought it could be dangerous, and then still walked into the dangerous space. So a little bit on Turtle there, but I think a strong gank from Echo Fox.
Yep, nice stuff. Lupa kind of has been having things going his way in that top lane. A little bit behind in CS, but Rumble's very strong in the early stages of the game. Able to bully Haunter for some of the lane, and then converting for 2 kills here is really nice.
Yeah, interesting how he's behind the minion wave. So that's one of the reasons I think Wild Turtle thought he was safe. Credit to Acadian for ward jumping through the minion wave and then flash kicking, knowing the Turtle summoner spells were down from the last fight.
Yep, covered maximum distance there. So a cute little play, gives himself 2 kills and a nice injection of gold. Wild Turtle and Bifrost though, able to comfortably come back here and continue to 2v1 Lupa. If he doesn't get any additional help, this tower should fall without too much trouble. Not a whole lot of resistance by Echo Fox being offered. In fact, they've already moved their duo lane to that mid lane, which Bjergsen can easily clear out as Orianna.
Yeah, and with 2 people showing, it does signal Echo Fox's rotation into the jungle to try and get ward. You have to be pretty careful walking through here, as you're still pretty far behind in this game.
Yeah, Acadian already got spotted, and Bifrost has walked back down, so Wild Turtle's going to get some time alone on the top outer turret. Loop actually roams back mid to get those waves out of the way, and there's a hook on the Keith. Haunter not going to get it, as Gate does manage to devour Keith away to safety. But I'm not sure Echo Fox can really continue this play.
Yeah, they're trying to set up around Ocean Drake, but Looper burned his ultimate clearing a minion wave, so I see a very low percentage chance of Echo Fox winning this fight if they do try and contest.
That'll go arrow here as well, so TSM can set up pretty nicely. Drake up in 5 seconds, TSM already there to the area, and Froggen is well and truly backed away from this fight. I think Echo Fox are just happy to give this one up. Well, they're not happy about it, but they're not going to fight Fox here.
Yeah, they have to make themselves okay with the decision, essentially, because if they would have gone for it, it would have been bad. They're going to try and get a lot of damage onto that top lane turret. That's where Looper had started here, but it does speak to Echo Fox not necessarily synchronizing as a team. If they wanted to get ward position for the Drake, which they did, they should have had the ultimates available to fight it, but they did not because Looper had burned his ultimate earlier on the minion wave. So kind of just a lot of people playing separate games instead of all being one cohesive team. Looper does get the joke though.
Yep, Haunter not going to make it there to save it, so Looper does manage to commit to the push and take it down. Hook though. Frontieren actually here. It's actually popped the ultimate already. Looper going to run away. Depth charge in. That should be the lock up on the boulder, and Spence Garen, his 4th straight kill in this game.
Yeah, and that's the Rengar right there. doesn't even need to worry about the chase in the CC because he had the lockdown from Hanser. I like that gank setup, and that's one of the reasons you can see Nautilus picked into Rumble. He doesn't win the matchup, but he doesn't die to Rumble, and if your jungler gets there, you can definitely kill Rumble, who's trying to play aggressive.
Yep, great assistance there from TSM. And it just feels like every lane is starting to really push out and win. I mean, CS-wise, mid's ahead by a lot, bottom lane's ahead by a significant chunk as well, and even Hanser has managed to get ahead with the pressure that's been put up there. So one last outer turret left for TSM to take. They're already up about 5,000 gold. That lead's going to just continue to grow here, and TSM have just taken full control of the game, it feels like.
Yeah, and also just how cohesive their team composition is in team fights gives them an edge. Looper, though, trying to go collapse on these 3 people. Biofrost and Wild Turtle are not here, so it would be a 4v3 if they can approach, but not necessarily approaching.
Yeah, they're going to get there first. Keith actually getting aggressive, shifts over. Bjergsen dodges the ulti from Rumble, and now Biofrost is here. Gate already goes down. Arrow lands onto Looper. That should be a second kill. Wild Growth going to get the knock-up. Shockwave didn't quite connect, but it doesn't matter. Looper polymorphed and taken down.
That was an entire play being set up while Froggen was trying to push out the bottom lane minion wave, and they had a window in which they could have ran and pushed a 4v3 quite easily, but they delayed for so long that Turtle and Biofrost just ran from mid lane to top lane. Echo Fox looks very out of shape.
I mean, they're not a slow team either. Lulu plus Cloud Drake means it's a pretty simple rotation for TSM to make, and it does feel like Echo Fox, they are trying some things, but TSM are there to defend, and also the proactive plays are working, as this is a deep teleport for Looper to set this up.
Yeah, but if Echo Fox is going to go for this play, they have to go immediately. As soon as Looper is in this brush and sees the controller, he almost has to ultimate. But Acadian was giving so much respect to Bjergsen and Hanser for good reason, because he could have gotten one-shot by them. First off, it's a hard 3-man unit for Echo Fox to try and 3v4, but secondly, it turned into a 5v4 anyway, so not the greatest play by Echo Fox.
No, certainly not, and Rift Herald goes over to TSM, which is usually a sign that a team is pretty far ahead in a game. Doesn't get enough attention, except if you can kind of take it because it's convenient, and that's what it felt like after the play for TSM.
Super convenient for them. They've already killed the outer turrets. Drake was already on cooldown. May as well give Hanser a bigger oomph 1v1 against Looper.
And I think your point about how standard this team comp is kind of why this game is looking just very crisp for TSM. Like, not only are they just playing very well and very cohesively, but their team comp really sets them up to do so. Looper looks dead again here. See you later. Svenskar, and get himself another one.
Oh my goodness, and Looper is not in a good place this game. The entire team is not in a good place this game, so you could say he probably should have been underneath his turret, but even then, with how fast he's dying, unless he's got teammates around him.
Ooh, Turtle flashing away. Good arrow onto Froggen, though. Is Froggen looking to make the play? Charm lands in. Wild Growth not going to protect him. Is Keith able to get the kill? Acadian, though, now too far forward as Hanser's zoning the rest of them away. Spencer deletes his opponent's jungler as Gabe flashes out of the shockwave. Keith gets himself out to safety as well, but TSM collect another trade.
Yeah, Acadian for Wild Turtle actually isn't bad for Echo Fox, but the problem is they are already so far behind, and Looper was already dead, so another turret probably coming through for TSM.
So they should be able to take it, make it their 5th of the game. Echo Fox falling woefully behind in objectives here. 8,500 gold down already.
Oof. Watch this one more time. Echo Fox going for a play this time. Teleport is smashed, but Froggen lands his burst onto Wild Turtle, and the charm really does a lot of work there, allowing the rest of Echo Fox to blow the damage through, even though TSM arrived with the shields. But then, there's just more people on TSM with a lot more gold pushing up mid lane because the turret.
Yep, it's kind of how it works sometimes. TSM just a little too far ahead. And now moving in towards the Baron area. Cloud Drake number 2 is up in a minute 10, but I think TSM have a bigger prize in mind. Control ward down. They're going to clear out the ward in the back, and Echo Fox now forced to respond to a very difficult situation.
Yeah, and at the very least, TSM pulls Echo Fox into the Baron right here. TSM have many vision controls, double sweeper, as well as Hawk Shot to give them extra vision. When they have the Orianna and Lulu as well, it gives them extra move speed. That means if Echo Fox tries to move up to get vision, TSM's probably going for a fight. You don't see many teams actually try and do the Baron at 20 minutes in one of these Baron Force situations, just because no Mountain Drake and not great Baron damage. What we do see is them draw the opponent team in and then rush forward for initiative.
Yep, the threat is usually enough, and look, they're just getting deeper vision into this jungle. Echo Fox are balling up together, trying to defend for a potential pick, but TSM really just have everything controlled here. I mean, they've got vision absolutely everywhere. Once again, a face check, but it's pretty safe for him to do so. Courage of the Colossus gonna proc. Svenskeren gets the ulti going, and Echo Fox back through mid lane.
Yeah, Svenskeren props his ultimate because he thought they were probably going to go right there, but I feel like a different call was the one that was followed by TSM pushing that top.
Svenskeren wants to go in. Does get good chunks on the Keith and Looper, but it's going to be safe for now. Just buying time for the rest of his team to take the tier 2 turret in top lane. And now a translation down to Dragon. TSM just trying to take everything off the map bit by bit.
Paper time, something about this week. We have had very fast and decisive games. A lot of our matches have gone 6 games, but it was yesterday. I believe both series on one of the streams went 3 games, but only lasted an overall like 5 hours and 15 minutes of broadcast. So really decisive average game time for these guys. And TSM, up 10,000 gold, 23 minutes in, already 6 turrets out. It's hard to see Echo Fox surviving this one much longer.
And it feels like it speaks to kind of 2 things here, right? One, we have discussed that the league has been close this year, and certainly parity is going to play a part into series that's going the full distance. But I think also that the teams are just sharpening up, and they've had a full season almost now to prepare and build cohesion. And for a lot of the teams, especially those middle of the pack teams that have really had a resurgence moving towards the postseason, like teams get better, right? And the middle of the pack teams are starting to get better, and games are just starting to get much cleaner as a result. Like everyone has improved. Even Envy are having relatively strong game wins.
Yeah, and I don't want to read too much into the small sample size, but another part of it could also just be the slight difference in the types of utility and chase down we're seeing in some of these team compositions. Like, you look at the TSM team, tons of move speed difference when compared to Echo Fox, and a lot of lockdown CC if they do get a lead. So the 1-kill fights that we were seeing where, Varus pokes someone down, eventually gets a kill, they back away and you get a turret across 3 minutes of sieging, is now just a 4-for-0 team fight where you're getting 3 or 4 turrets taken down.
Yeah, certainly teams looking to do maximum punishment. As the Echo Foxes have to run, Acadian kicks Jerkson back in. Froggen looking for the assassination, but Wildgoat goes down. Gate and Froggen melt under the AoE as now Looper's caught in the front side. Turtle just going to keep going as Keith eats the arrow. A double kill for Turtle, maybe make it 3. There's the triple as Keith goes down as well. And Acadian's the only one left, but TSM just run it down mid.
Speaking of 4-for-0 team fights, we see one right there, Patriot Time. TSM still having a minion wave that has not been cut off by Echo Fox. Hansu going to tank the turret up early. This is at least an inhibitor for TSM.
Yep. Should fall here in the mid lane. Wave pushing through the bot as well. We'll see exactly what TSM want to take off this play. But certainly this one's going down. TSM going to back towards Baron.
Yep, and they can keep running this play over and over again. And Echo Fox is most likely going to lose it each time it happens. And this is just Echo Fox not even going that close to the Baron trying to check it. But then Froggen jumps in to try and make a play right into a Nautilus ultimate, so he just evaporates. At that point, it's Looper, and Turtle didn't even need his arrow for that initial start of the fight. Drills Keith, has him fall for the first time in the game, and leads to the 4-for-0.
Jerkson also held onto his ultimate in that fight, so didn't even need that to try and AoE some people down. TSM just too far ahead. And I mean, mid lane inhibitor's the easiest one to lose, but I don't think Echo Fox are going to have much luck in these ensuing fights. TSM, we're going to deliver the killing blow. Svenskeren going to pop the ulti there again. Gate forced to flash out. Hawkshot's going to spot Acadian.
There's a Nautilus behind.
Tracking him. Gate needs to try and save him. They got Froggen there as well. And Hanzo all the way with the wraparound. Acadian's going to get locked down and shut down. And now Gate going to get chased as well. Turtle able to slow him. Gate's left out to dry. He's dead as well. And TSM again just back towards the objective.
Yeah, turning into quite a stomp. The double Cloud Drake actually kind of adding insult to injury on Echo Fox, making it even harder for them to run away. TSM just sees them somewhere on a map, and then they run at them.
Yeah, usually when you're snowballing, you'd want maybe a Mountain or an Infernal to do a bit more damage, but TSM have more than enough damage. Just need to be able to chase you down. Froggen is kind of around for a Baron steal, but everyone's going to back away. Baron will go over to TSM. Looper does get a turret in the bottom lane, so a little bit of gold over to Echo Fox, but Looper, thankfully for him, is going to escape. Haunts are going to join that wave and get that pushing, and TSM likely moving in to end the game.
Yeah, likely a little too late as well with that turret from Looper. Good to get something back after the Baron is gone, but now you're in this situation where you're down 13,000 gold, 26 minutes in. The enemy team has a giant Nautilus who can be augmented by the Lulu and the Orianna when turret diving. Not to mention, the base has already been broken open, which gives TSM an access point.
We've seen Rengar as well do a lot of that diving. Svenskaren's had a really good-looking game, particularly when his team is behind him. I mean, this is the types of games you love to play as Rengar because you can just go in pretty nonchalant. You've got a Lulu behind the support. You've got Orianna to combo in to start a team fight. Like, it just feels like all good options for TSM. And sure, some of that is the draft they got for themselves here, but also just playing much better than we've seen in a lot of their game ones here.
Yeah, and EchoFox wants to try and find a flank, but that's what happens with the flank. Froggen actually landed the Great Charm onto the dude that has one of the lowest magic resist totals on the team. Doesn't do much.
Oh, Arcadian bopped up there. Arrow going to find him as well. Okay, gets him out of the way, but the inhibitor is going to go down already. Sven going to leap onto Froggen. Gets that first crit down as Keith being chased down by Haunter. Haunter might just keep running for it. Looking to 1v4 the backline, but Turtle now laying in with arrows. Bjergsen flashes forward and finds the shockwave that clips Arcadian. TSM going to redeem up and heal down as they take down the Nexus turret. EchoFox going to get absolutely destroyed by TSM in game 1.
Yeah, and in a matchup, TSM has only won about half the time this year. That is game 1 of a game 3 series. TSM has one of their more decisive victories. They are playing up against an EchoFox team who seems to be on a downward trajectory, but that's the type of game 1 the TSM hopes to have on a weekly basis.
Certainly do, and it just looks... everything just fell into place for them. Like, I don't want to say clean because that's kind of been the buzzword of the weekend, but...
it looks easy, is what that game looked like, because the plays felt like they almost kind of fell into TSM. You don't see a particular moment in that game and you go, oh, wow, that was an amazing outplay by TSM right there. They just continued to extend their lead with mechanically decisive plays. There's nothing crazy about that game, but it turned into the 28-minute win.
Yeah, we actually are going to break the game down here, so we'll go a little bit more into how this kind of happened. I mean, I think the first thing is they controlled so well, but watch this team fight. I mean, TSM didn't need that many team fights to win, but...
yeah, well, this is an example of kind of how easy it was. The highlight play here was probably Haunter's Nautilus ultimate, which knocked up Froggen. But as you mentioned, like, they had an Ash Arrow towards the end of the fight, and Bjergsen didn't even need to use his ultimate. That fight was easy for them, and it was a 4-for-0.
Yeah, it's just, again, how far ahead they were at that point at Svenskeren. I mean, he had a run today on Rengar. We, question, his jungling hasn't looked as good. Arcadian's the kind of jungler that does punish you, but at some point, you just have to think, okay, he's enabled for his team, he farms up. TSM play a very safe, controlled early game where they track Arcadian, and Svenskeren, surprise, able to shine again.
Yeah, a lot of smiles there for TSM on the outside. And I think one thing that does happen whenever games run away like this is if you're going to have a whole team victory, it's the jungler who's going around and killing everyone. And in this game, that was Svenskeren. He got off to a really early start, as we can see right here. His first gank was after Froggen had already tried to go aggressive in the mid lane with ultimate. So he just makes the return kill, and then Biofrost comes up to delay this, but really gives Svenskeren the second kill. And this play right here puts Svenskeren about 900 gold up on Arcadian. And then from there, he just continued to punish him. Nautilus was always the setup for Svenskeren, but Svenskeren was bringing the damage again and again. Right there, Shockwave is the setup, but Svenskeren brings a lot of the damage, again picking up some kills under the turret.
And again, kind of tough to say it was a team effort there for TSM, but we'll have a quick chat about it. Jat, on the service, who are we looking at for player of the game? Because Sven's the obvious one, but Bjerg also had a pretty good game.
Yeah, I mean, Bjerg was a very supportive Orianna the entire game, but generally in games that run away like this, I do often like to give it to the jungler because he's the one making most of the proactive decisions, and in this one, it is relatively hard to argue Svenskeren with the pretty carry Rengar performance.
Did a lot of damage, actually.
Right now would be my player of the game.
Okay, well, makes sense. He out-damaged everyone but Total, who also had just a very solid Ashe game. These are the sorts of things we expect from Wild Total, but I think in general, for me, I mean, I can't give it to the draft, but it's going to the draft for me as far as how this game went out, because with the exception of Ashe, you would happily take that in a blind pick draft. Like, those picks were amazing for TSM.
Yeah, and I mean, so one thing that's happened this week in the LCS is Lulu's just skyrocketed in priority. The lanes aren't necessarily able to out-poke Lulu like the old Malzahar or the Zyra, which is one of the reasons we weren't seeing her. And she's still beating the tanks, not to mention she supports super well. And when Orianna's also in a point where she is as strong as she is, being able to have that double shield, I really do feel like that kind of hits critical mass in shielding. You just need a small lead, and then you're having these deathless fights where you're expanding your lead massively. I'd love to see the win rate of Orianna and Lulu paired together in the last week and a half because it must be extremely high.
Yeah, it does lead to gold graphs that look a lot like this. We're going to step away for a quick break, but when we come back, it's Game 2 between EchoFox and TSM. Stay with us. You're watching the North American LCS.
My New Year's resolution is to never lose to TSM. And so far, it's been going pretty well. But if you guys pick it up for me, I'm gonna be a little mad, that's all.
TP in from Echo Fox, but first blood is going to go to Spencer and Arcadian. Going to answer back. Oh! Bifrost might have saved with the shield. Exhausted down as well. And there's a double kill for Spence. Now going to lead back on the Looper, who does get the counter kill, but TSM collapse first and collect the trade. Uh-oh, Turtle going to get kicked. Bifrost not sure he can protect him. Looper with the damage, but the polymorph might help. No, not nearly enough. And Arcadian gets both kills, actually.
Ulti time? I don't have... Oh, how about inside? Just kill him. What the fuck?
Rumble!
Nice.
Arcadian kicks Bjergsen back in. Froggen looking for the assassination, but Wild goes down. Gate as Froggen melt under the AoE as now Looper's caught in the front side. Turtle just going to keep going as Keith eats the arrow. A double kill for Turtle, maybe make it 3. There's the triple.
Settle down, boys.
Kled initiation.
I won't settle down, Kobe.
7,000 moves.
It's OP.
It's happening.